The 5-minute rest was up, and the group began the final leg of the journey to the farmstead. As they approached, a general state of neglect and disrepair was observed. The clearing the property sat in was completely overgrown with all manner of weeds and wild plants, like nature was trying to reclaim the land. The fences needed patching up at multiple points, and the paintwork on the upper timber portion of the house had seen better days. Much of it was now peeling off. The building did, however, looked to still be structurally sound, and the roof was still fully intact, at least. Parsifal mused, "Maybe we shouldn't burn this to the ground. With a bit of work, this could be a good place to house some of the refugees in Orton." "Well, what about anything we find inside?" asked Sister Silvara. "Maybe we can drag it all out into the middle of that field where the scarecrows are, pile it up high, light a huge bonfire that they can see from Orton, so they know the job's been done right," suggested Darren. "Sold," said Mattis. When they entered the 2-story farmhouse on the first floor, it was discovered that all the furniture was smashed to bits, and there were 4 modified zombies just milling around. The modifications these zombies had received were far less extensive and elaborate than the ones that they faced on the way to the farmstead, mostly just a random selection of armor plates and grafted-on melee weapons. Detecting the warm bodies in the room, the zombies moved to attack, further smashing the furniture into smaller pieces on the way. Darren, no longer having a shield, held his sword in a 2-handed grip. Sister Silvara and Parsifal formed up with their shields to block the incoming opponents. Mattis began casting a spell to blast a random zombie. Bolts of magical energy smashed into a zombie just before Sister Silvara's mace connected and finished the job. Darren stepped around Sister Silvara to take a big swing at the zombie next to the one that had just been dealt with. His blow glanced off one of the thick armor plates, making a loud ringing sound, and, due to low light conditions in the dusty room, some visible sparks were produced. He used the momentum to orient himself for a more surgical thrust between the plates. Parsifal did not yet find himself directly engaged with any zombies, so he just took a minute to observe the situation whilst holding his blade up high, waiting to deliver a powerful downwards chop should the opportunity present itself. The 2 latecomer zombies that had to move further to get into contact arrived, swinging their arms trying to connect with the random blades and hooks sticking out of them. They continued their relentless march directly into the path of Parsifal's overhead chop. When Parsifal's sword connected, it went clean through the zombie's head and halfway into the chest cavity. Whilst this did instantly finish his opponent, it left him having to try and wrestle the sword out of the zombie as gravity took over and it collapsed to the floor. This unfortunately pulled him directly into the path of another flailing zombie, causing some nasty lacerations. Mattis came to Parsifal's aid by distracting the zombie with a series of rapid dagger thrusts to the upper back and shoulder region, but he also took a nasty hit for his efforts. Timmy, seeing that potentially half the party was now down, decided it counted as an emergency. Jumping in with the dagger Mattis had given him, Timmy finished off the zombie before it could do any more damage to the knockdown party members. Darren ran his zombie through with a powerful thrust aimed precisely between the armor plates that had previously defeated his more expansive sweeping attack attempts. Whilst Sister Silvara was tending to her 2 wounded companions, Darren and Timmy explored the first floor, looking for anything interesting. Darren said to Timmy, "Good work back there. Once those 2 are ready to go, we will see what happened to your man in the cellar cells." Searching through the smashed-up furniture, they found some sort of journal. On a quick flick through it, it seemed like the ramblings of a madman. Darren decided to hang on to it to read later. Fortunately, Parsifal and Mattis were not seriously injured, so a couple of quick healing spells, and they were soon on their feet and ready to head downstairs. Once downstairs into the basement, or more accurately, the cellar, the concentrated smell of decay was overwhelming. Timmy had not noticed this the last time he was here due to being overwhelmed by fear and adrenaline. He made a comment to Mattis, who was standing beside him at the time, about this. They went to the cell area first to check on the fellow prisoner that Timmy mentioned earlier, and hopefully put his mind at ease. The cells, 3 of them, appeared to have once been bulk storage areas for sacks of grain or similar, but now they have had bars installed on them, for the purpose of locking up prisoners or unruly zombies. Only the middle cell had chains installed on the wall, but they were empty. This was preferable to seeing a skeletal figure hanging there, Timmy thought. The pile of bodies in the cell is new though, Timmy commented. The rest of the room had not been allocated as cells, but was a workshop and lab area. In the middle of the area was a large table that had one of the battering ram fist modified zombies partway through construction. There were racks of neatly sectioned up zombie parts and other racks of various machine parts. Many looked familiar from the encounter on the forest path. The final component that made up this area was a drawing board with a sketch for a new machine part. Next to the detailed sketch, there was a book that had the same item on the page, but it was a very childlike drawing. It looked faded and very old. Mattis took one look at the book and said, "So, I can tell you these people were very wealthy at some point. This is the sort of scrapbook that only the children of the very wealthy are ever likely to even see," pointing at the book with the child sketch. "Some of my friends had them growing up." Parsifal said, "So, all of this needs to go outside for the fire when we build it. But first, I think we should check if those are actually dead bodies or just more zombies taking a nap in the middle of that cell. I'll try poke one through the bars with my glaive." After giving the pile of bodies a little poke, it turned out they were in fact zombies, lying in wait, and they all stood up and went to the bars. Sister Silvara was already prepared with the holy symbol, so she made an attempt to use her skill. It was more successful this time, and the zombies all cowered in fear from the glowing necklace. "Okay, we have a few minutes to quickly slay them all. I've been taught that when they cower like this, we can attack them without them reacting at all," Sister Silvara said. The cell key was hanging on the wall beside the stairwell. Unlocking the cell, they went in and quickly laid them all back to rest. While they were doing this, Timmy noticed a secret door on the back wall that the man was hanging in front of the last time he was here. Checking out this secret door, it was discovered it led to a tunnel that eventually emerged out in the forest. It was decided that now that they were outside, it would probably be worth just checking the scarecrows where they were going to set up the fire before heading back inside. Of course, the scarecrows were also zombies. This was not even a surprise at this point based on what they'd seen so far. However, there did appear to be something wrong with these ones, like they were just created badly. Since they were also attached to stakes to keep them propped up like normal farmer might do with their scarecrows, they really couldn't do much to put up a meaningful resistance and were quickly laid to rest. Heading back inside, the party went to the upper floor and found themselves in a library. After a quick look at the spines of the books, Mattis was able to confirm. Definitely rich. All the standard shelf fillers are here. We'll have a proper look at this to make sure there's nothing questionable amongst them. As Mattis said this, there was a sudden noise from the direction of the bedroom. They readied their weapons and headed in that direction immediately. As they got closer to the area, they came across two of the zombies with the sticky metal plates attached. Parsifal decided to use his glaive. His reasoning that was with its lower metal content, due to the timber haft, he would be afforded more control of his weapon. Darren stuck with using his sword two-handed and was forced to fight against the attractive force that the plates had on his sword. Mattis decided to use the last of his spells to try and speed the defeat of the zombies. No clever tricks were going to work this time. There was no finesse or precision to the fight. It was very difficult to land clean blows on unarmoured weak points when the weapons were being drawn to the armour plates. Also, it was very fatiguing to fight against the pull of the sticky metal. But Mattis's decision to blast them with spells preemptively was the right one. At least it had softened up the opponents a bit. Eventually the party prevailed and managed to overcome their opponents. They headed to the bedroom, which was, as far as everyone was concerned, a large bedroom. The bed in this room was big enough to comfortably sleep 5. The wardrobe put Furians to shame. The only normal-looking piece of furniture was the writing desk. It was of standard proportions. Although it was crafted to the same level of artistry as the other pieces in the room, in a matching timber, something exotic and expensive. The window was also wide open. Looking out the window, they saw a man on horseback in black robes with a silver trim riding off into the distance. Timmy said, "Hey, that man looks a bit like the man from the cell. Same sort of clothing and hair. Glad he got away." There was no point chasing him at this point to find out. Too much of a head start. There were many possibilities and no one wanted to say them out loud for Timmy's sake. Going to the writing desk, there was still fresh ink in the well and a hastily written note, the ink barely dry. It said, Thank you for coming. Please burn everything you can. The oil in the cellar should help. I'm off to seek my ancestral home and to repent for my evil deeds. Regards, Patrick. Also on the writing desk was a folded note addressed to Patrick, with a little love heart as the dot on the letter I. The note read, Dearest Patrick, I know you were busy with your work, so I have sent you these zombies to assist you. Yours are still not very good, and I think you are wasting your time if you are trying to use them in your experiments. Looking forward to your next visit. Love, Millie, with a few more little love hearts drawn on the paper. We will keep that note with the journal, Darren said. I will search the library now and see if there's anything that needs to be burnt up here. Then I guess we'll go build that big fire we decided on earlier, Mattis said. I recommend that whilst Mattis is checking the library, we have a little rest. We're about to do a lot of heavy lifting, building that fire, and that bed looks really inviting, Parsival suggested. Checking through the library, it was discovered that it was mostly just random books that wealthy nobles like to keep on bookshelves as status symbols. There are a number of children's scrapbooks like the one in the cellar lab, full of crazy designs that could also be updated. These were collected to go into the fire. There was very little that had anything to do with magic or necromancy, however, but a couple of the books were rare editions, possibly valuable to collectors of such things. With the area cleared of any hostiles and the library checked for questionable materials, it was time to build the fire. All the smashed up wooden furniture was dragged out and piled up. Then all the zombies and all the partial zombies were added. Books and drawings were stuffed into gaps and machine parts were thrown onto the now huge pile in the middle of the field. After this, the barrels of oil were poured over everything, with the empty oil jugs also tossed onto the pile. A small trail was poured on the ground so it could be safely ignited without having to lean over a large quantity of flammable liquid to start it. Once the burning oil started to ignite the broken furniture and the lubricants in the machinery, there was enough heat for the fats still present in the zombie's body to begin rendering out. As the fats liquefied and dripped into the fire, they began igniting, causing many flare-ups throughout the pile. It was decided it was best to stay and watch the fire to avoid setting the overgrown grass in the area alight.